All right. Welcome back to All Cars, y'all. If you're new here, my name is John. It is time for another reaction video. This week it is the 1999 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I think I've got some things to say about this one. So as always, make yourself comfortable. Grab a beverage of choice. We've got fully caffeinated caffeine today, and well, let's get into it. Take a little trip back in memory lane 25 years ago, unbelievably, and see what Motorweek said about a Jeep.
Motorweek is made possible by Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper and TireRack.com.
In 1992, the Jeep Grand Cherokee began what was to become a flood of upscale sport utility vehicles, where off-road capability took a back seat to luxury and convenience. Fortunately, Jeep never forgot its heritage and made sure the Grand Cherokee was a leader on both fronts. But as new, more sophisticated rivals arrived, even the champions like the Grand Cherokee felt the heat. So for 1999, there's a new Grand Cherokee, redesigned from the ground up. And while it certainly looks a lot like its forebear, Jeep says it is a cutting-edge design. Maybe so, but is it sharp enough to cut through the competition?
And I think this is fantastic looking. I really do. I like the Grand Cherokee. Always have. Never came close to buying one, but I always have liked it. And I think this is a really, really handsome vehicle. You know, somewhat prominent, but not overly large chrome grille. I think the headlight treatment is just really crisp, and I think the lines are just, I don't want to quite say beautiful, but I think they're just crisp and purposeful, like a casual suit almost. I don't know. I think it looks really, really good. Let's see what else they say.
The 1999 Jeep Grand Cherokee doesn't look any sharper, but don't let that fool you. Jeep designers actually smoothed out the new, slightly larger Grand Cherokee, giving it a chunkier, more mature look, especially up front with its curved but raked grille and massive lower fascia. However, these more flowing lines ride on the same 105.6-inch wheelbase as last year, and the whole package is only about 4.5 inches longer. It's also 2 inches taller, but retains the same 8.3 inches of ground clearance offered last year. Yet engineers managed to reduce step-in height by 1 inch for easier entry into the remodeled interior. The dash has a more seamless European appearance with a lower instrument pod, though the 70s-looking artificial wood trim would be at home in an old Chrysler Imperial. Gauges are, as before, clear and extremely comprehensive. An extra 1 inch of seat height gives the driver a better view over the dash, while the larger seats themselves are more comfortable and supportive. 10-way power adjustments are optional on Laredo models and standard on Limited, while only the Limited gets optional front seat heaters. But all Grand Cherokees have a standard tilt wheel. In addition to the depowered airbag, the steering wheel can be equipped with switchgear for cruise control and basic stereo functions. More critical is that the stereo head has been moved closer to the driver. Its high dash position and logical layout get our stamp of approval, as do the very clean ventilation controls. A dual-zone automatic system is standard on the Limited, controlled by an infrared body temperature sensor. Handy everyday features include dual power points for phones and video games, and a selection of family-size cup holders. Rear seat room has never been a Grand Cherokee strong point, and a minor expansion for '99 does little to change that. The rear seat also gets a handy power point. The 60/40 split folding seat back requires less effort than those of most competitors, and the new folding head restraints save fumbling with detachable units. Folding the seat allows access to 70...
Before they go on, let's talk about all that real quick. The saying that back seat room has never been a strength of the Cherokee. Grand Cherokee. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more, I think, in terms of the sizing of the Grand Cherokee. But when you looked at that guy sitting there, he had plenty of space in front of him. You know, where do we feel we need to have 8 or 10 inches between our knees and the front seat? I'm not sure, but I think it's probably more of a width factor than a front to back issue. But up front, handsome. You probably have figured out now if you've watched any of my videos, I'm kind of a big fan of Chrysler products in the 90s. I just, everything they did, for the most part, was a hit. And this is almost no exception here. The gauges are a little boring. The center armrest area where the transmission, the gear selector is, and it's all a little boring. It looks nice, it looks crisp, but it just lacks a little flair for something that's going for not pedestrian, but slightly upscale, just a touch upscale. You almost look at the gauges and where's the chrome bezel around it? Just little touches. It's very handsome. Don't get me wrong. I like the mix of materials. I like the style. I like, the very much the rectilinearness of it all. So I don't dislike it. It just, they missed some opportunities to add a little flash, a little zing to it. Same thing with the radio and the HVAC. Fan of it. Big, simple knobs, easy to use, big buttons for the radio. There's not a lot here that I don't like. That fake wood is one of them, though. That looked terrible. That looked like a plastic applique kind of tacked on. But that's pretty minor, all things considered. But it kind of feeds into if you're going upscale and you want to use fake wood because it's more upscale, then the rest of everything else just looks a little plain, if not crisp, at least. In short, I like the interior.
2.3 cubic feet of cargo space, a 7 cubic foot decrease from last year. That's the price you pay for a spare tire that moves from the cargo bay to under the cargo floor. To haul this heavier Grand Cherokee...
I'll take that all day long. Instead of having a tire standing up right there, put it under the floor. Absolutely. Every day of the week, I would take that.
Around, Jeep has revamped the standard 4-liter inline 6-cylinder. It now delivers 195 horsepower and 230 pound-feet of torque. While the all-new optional 4.7-liter PowerTech V8, Chrysler's first overhead cam V8, generates 235 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That's more horsepower than last year's 5.2-liter pushrod V8 with lower emissions and higher fuel economy. All Grand Cherokees use a new 4-speed automatic transmission with 2 second gears. The alternate second gear allows for smoother downshifts under hard acceleration. 6-cylinder Grand Cherokees can be ordered with Jeep's proven Select-Track full-time 4-wheel drive system, while V8 models use the new Quadra-Track 2 system. This improves on last year's sturdy on-demand transfer case, matching it to a pair of traction-sensing differentials that use hydraulic pumps to engage multi-disc clutch packs. Since power can be directed to the wheel with the most traction, the Grand Cherokee can keep going even if only one wheel has traction. While we haven't yet managed any real heavy-duty off-roading, we can report that the Quadra-Track-equipped Grand Cherokee feels extremely sure-footed on loose dirt and gravel inclines. Similar traction conditions to what most suburban buyers will experience during harsh winter weather.
Okay. So, I don't know much about the V8. I mean, I kind of have a positive opinion of it. As always, I think if you have more experience with it, whether it was reliable or not, you will let us know in the comments below. But the 6-cylinder, that 4-liter, what a beast. Love that engine. Love that engine. The rest of the 4-wheel drive stuff, you know what? I've always had a positive opinion of Jeeps. For those of you who are relatively new to my channel, I've had one Wrangler, one CJ, and a Cherokee. So I consider myself kind of a Jeep fan and always respected their off-road ability. Not much to dislike there. I expect a Jeep to be able to do 4-wheel drive stuff. That's, their whole shtick was, we're going to give you ever nicer cars, but it's still going to be able to do Jeep stuff. And the Grand Cherokee kept doing it, but they managed to also balance it with not being terrible on the road at the same time. It was an exceptional vehicle in my opinion. I do want to say though that when I watch some of these, and there's been some of these Motorweek reviews where they've had off-roaders and they've taken them out to like a quarry or something, and that at least gives a better example of four-wheel driving. Driving here through a grassy field, I've done that with my Accord, so okay, you know, I'm glad the Jeep made it, I guess is what I'm saying, but that doesn't really show it off at all. You know, a Subaru could do that.
But most Grand Cherokee time will be spent on dry pavement, so improved highway manners were important. Jeep engineers retained last year's live axle coil spring suspension up front, but out back they mated the solid axle to a pair of trailing links at each wheel and a central A-arm. They also improved the Jeep's ball-type power steering system with repositioned linkage for better feel and response. This has eliminated much of the previous vehicle's tendency to wander at highway speeds and greatly reduced the Grand Cherokee's irritating tendency to buck and weave in corners. A smaller turning diameter is a plus in urban congestion as well as wilderness. And when combined with the smooth, muscular new V8 engine, these refined underpinnings give the new 99 Grand Cherokee a feel that's more sport than utility. And when the fun has to stop, larger four-wheel disc brakes and a new anti-lock system with electronic brake distribution greatly improve stability. Yet despite so many changes, Grand Cherokee prices have changed the least of anything. Base price for the two-wheel drive Laredo model is $26,220. The 4x4 starts at $28,190. Both are $250 less than last year. Base prices for limited models are unchanged. The two-wheel drive version starts at $31,985, while $34,415 will net you a posh 4x4. There is a tremendous amount of improvement at no extra cost, and it should keep Grand Cherokee fans very happy. Our friends at Automobile Magazine are also pleased. They wrote that the improvements add to its on-road abilities, but have resulted in a vehicle that is more versatile and even better off-road. But the retention of time-honored technology like live axles and ball-type steering keep us from agreeing with Jeep's claim that the 1999 Grand Cherokee is a cutting-edge design. It is, however, a very good one. More powerful, more capable, and more comfortable, yet more familiar at the same time. The 1999 Jeep Grand Cherokee may not be all cutting edge, but we are certain it will still slice through the competition with ease.
Oh, I think that's unfair. I think that's really, really nitpicking. Mentioning the ball-type steering twice and how this isn't a cutting-edge vehicle because it's using, you know, an old-fashioned steering setup. That's really, really picking on it here. I like it. I even like the color, that kind of candy apple-ish red. You know, I do like my interiors a little lighter and brighter. I'd like a little more tan in there, but I had no problem with it. And I've always liked the quality of the materials they've used in the Grand Cherokees. There was a generation or so there where the headlights got bigger and it looked kind of, I don't know, frumpy almost. But for the most part, I've liked the Grand Cherokee since it was introduced. And I find it so fascinating that even now, if again, this hypothetical situation, somebody came to me and was like, here's a chunk of money, go buy a sport utility vehicle, I'd be hard pressed to buy a Grand Cherokee even today. And I like the new one. I don't think it's well regarded overall. I don't know if it's tested well. But in person, it's beautiful. The interior is gorgeous. But the Grand Cherokee, I guess, I've just never been their target market. That I want something I'm driving every day, so I want it to have just a touch of luxury, but it's not from a luxury name, and I want it to have a ton of off-road ability, and it's a little smaller than its competitors, usually. Now, I'm sure somebody will tell me that, oh no, the XYZ was a little smaller, but if you think about how well the Explorer sold, for decades, the Grand Cherokee was a little more tidy in its dimensions. It was just a little smaller, so if you were a family person, maybe the Explorer would be a better buy, but if you want the true off-road ability of this, then what for? And it wasn't as nice as, say, a Land Rover. but obviously more reliable, at least in my opinion, more reliable than a Land Rover. It exists in this weird spot where I like it and I respect it, but I've never seen the point of owning one. There's always been more luxury or more basic capability. And it's just never been, it's been a car I've always liked. It's just never been a car I really craved. And I'll add to this, and I'll finish with this little thing, that my mom and my stepdad had a Grand Cherokee, and they had it for a long time. I do not remember what year it was. It was much newer than this. But they had it for years. Never had a lick of problems with it. It was absolutely dead reliable. And when they got rid of it, it was in great shape. It was in perfect condition. The seats and everything was just in perfect condition. And I don't know why they got rid of it. I never asked them. But they bought a CRV, okay? And they love the CRV way more than they ever liked the Grand Cherokee. Now, of course, they're older. They're not going hardcore off-roading. And the CRV is much smaller, but the packaging of it and the way it drives and the usability of it and everything else, they had a nice near luxury SUV that was fully capable and very powerful and beautiful. In fact, it was kind of this reddish color here. And they like their CRV much more. That kind of tells you a lot about just the feel of the vehicle, I think. So I don't know what to say. They didn't have the 0 to 60 times and the braking distance and the road holding in the slalom and all the other stuff. They didn't give a decibel reading. They said the new V8 had better gas mileage, but then they don't tell you what it is. So weird review a little bit for a car that I deeply respect. And I think I would be very, very happy with one, with that knowledge that I had all of that capability to go off-roading at any moment. But overall, when it comes down to it, I'm just like, well, 4Runner, Tahoe, pretty much anything else is more focused on where I might use the product. Now, that's my opinion today. If I did this video another week, I might feel slightly different about it. But historically speaking, I've loved the Grand Cherokee since it came out. A few years, kind of funky styling for me. And it just, the size, value, positioning, and abilities just never resonated with me at all. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me here today, kind of reminiscing about this. I appreciate it. Look forward to hearing your comments below.